Hi, I'm Rob Wilson, and thanks a lot for those perspectives. I guess I have a question for each of you. Colleen, I would just like to hear a little bit more about whether you've met other people who have been in a similar situation, either through AACL or through other personal connections, or whether you feel like your situation is very unusual, very almost unique, whether you feel like there's a community of people that you can you feel a part of in light of those experiences. That's, I guess, the first question. And I guess the question on the other side, and maybe this question to all of you as well, is what are the kinds of reactions you get when you confront people who have basically exploited your vulnerabilities in the situations you're in, they've betrayed the trust that you've invested in them, and they're in positions of authority. They're in positions of, and they have some kind of obligation there that they've clearly abrogated, and you definitely feel more than let down. But how do they react? What's that scenario like there? You must have many stories that are like that, I'm sure.
I feel that being a part of AACL has really kept me strong through the whole ordeal. And just the fact of now that my daughter's 15 years old and she's a teenager, and I'm going to have struggles, but you know what? They're typical teenage struggles. And just the fact of it just being, I do feel like being a part of a family with AACL. I really do. I do, since this happened. Last year I was in the leadership series and I really enjoyed it, and that's where I met Wendy and Sam. So I've heard their stories before, and I really, this is one more insight I just heard, from the very beginning. It's nice to hear from the very beginning and hear the rest of it too. That's where I met them, and I do feel a part that there are a lot of people out there, but that have similar things happen to them.
You met some of those parents?
Yes, I have met some of those parents, quite a bit actually. And I've stayed in contact with them too. And it's also through my daughter and the kids that she meets, she stays close to them too.
I think one of the things that the meeting Colleen has been one example of a number of mothers and fathers, but particularly mothers we've met over the last 10 years as part of a longer-term project that I've been engaged in with ACL, and through ACL met Colleen. And yes, there's a very high percentage of children, perhaps over 68 to 65% of children in child welfare have one or more disabilities. Many of those children have been taken away from parents who may have struggles themselves with poverty, with disability, with other complicating conditions socially. And in fact, that the welfare system is very unsupportive of returning those children back to their families. In effect, I think many of us would argue that the systemic oppression and devaluation has really created, through the foster care system, the new institution for children with disabilities. And so I think it's a very big and serious concern. The point Dick makes about the sort of hidden decision making and the struggle that parents go through. Many parents, like Colleen, fight very hard in the court systems and with social workers to get their children back, and are never believed. They are always being told to prove that they're good parents. They go through all the steps and it's still not enough. And they're actually told quite often in the system, I think quite clearly, better you should fail and get over it and give your children away and stop thinking about being a parent.
Colleen, do you want to share, you worked through part of this, right? What were you doing for work?
I was working in childcare at daycare centers all over the city.
Yeah, we forgot to say that part.
Yeah.
I just think that's a really important piece of all of this.
There's so many ironies, actually, in Colleen's stories about how she was not allowed to parent, but she looked after many other people's children.
And the comments I got from the parents, because I was very open into my situation, and the parents were like, got your kid taken away? Why? You take care of our kids? And they were quite happy with me taking care of their children. They didn't have any questions, any comments, any concerns while I was doing this. And like just even the fact that now I'm trying to open up a day home with, I have a private day home, but I'm trying to go with an agency. Yes, there's roadblocks because of child welfare involvement. When you do you have to do a child welfare check.
Mm-hmm.
And on the child welfare check has the whole involvement. But when I start explaining it to them, that the reasons why, they say, okay, we are going to approve you because, I mean, I'm open with it. I have nothing to hide.
The one other thing that I would add to that is that many foster care parents are excellent, but on the other hand, the child welfare system and foster care does not have a particularly good record in terms of if you look at the risk for abuse or neglect in foster care homes, it's considerably higher than it is for kids in natural families. And so in a way, not only is the standard artificial when we start to say, well, anybody with a disability we automatically assume cannot take good care of their child, but we're also assuming that foster care is a wonderful place for all children to be, and the truth is that in many cases it's